This is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. You are all in tonight with me, Alexandra Levine. Breaking news. Tiffany Trump Boulos is officially a mother. She gave birth to a very healthy and beautiful baby boy named Alexander. Congratulations to President Trump for being a grandfather again. And this will be her husband's first Father's Day coming up the middle of June. So we say congratulations to Tiffany, congratulations to her husband, and congratulations to President Trump. Speaking of President Trump, he is currently in the Middle East. As you know, he has been in Saudi Arabia, he was in Qatar, and he was at UAE today. And we'll put up the first slide by Gunther Eagleman, just in. President Trump and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman signed a series of agreements on energy, defense, and other areas, a $600 billion investment into America. This is so great and so wonderful for our country. And then we're going to put up the second slide, just in. Saudi Crown Prince says he will work on boosting U.S. investments to $1 trillion. Again, America is winning again under President Donald J. Trump. And then slide number 3. President Trump just called on Saudi Arabia to join the historic Abraham Accords and recognize Israel. Remember, I talked about this on Tuesday. He said, quote, "It's been an amazing thing, the Abraham Accords, and it's my fervent hope that Saudi Arabia will soon be joining the Abraham Accords. I think it'll be a tremendous tribute to your country, and it will be something that's very important for the future of the Middle East." Now, when President Trump did mention the Abraham Accords to the Saudi king, he said, well, you need to recognize a Palestinian state. Of course, President Trump is not going to recognize a Palestinian state. He didn't even mention a Palestinian state or a two-state solution on this trip, which is very important for my Jewish viewers to understand, and for President Trump's Jewish constituents to understand, that President Trump is not looking to have a Palestinian state. What the main crux of this trip is about is to expand the Abraham Accords. He even asked the Syrian leaders, who is the head of ISIS, to think about being a part of the Abraham Accords. UAE is also a part of the Abraham Accords. We have Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco. All of those countries have kept the treaty. President Trump's goal with Bibi Netanyahu, as well as the United States of America, is to continue expanding those Abraham Accords so we have Middle East peace. And the fourth slide, at Real Donald Trump, he said, and this is talking about the plane. Everybody is freaking out about Trump getting this plane. So the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers. Make America great again. And again, why is President Trump getting this plane from the Qatari government? And again, he asked a Florida contractor to facilitate this plane because Boeing was supposed to do this. He asked Boeing 10 years ago to make a new Air Force One. The plane is 40 years old. It's an old plane. As you know, President Trump is a builder. He likes new, fresh things. President Trump took a tour of the beautiful mosque in UAE today. It is a gorgeous mosque with white marble. And in Israel, they have Jerusalem stone, which is the most expensive stone in the world. It's all fresh. It's all brand new. And President Trump is looking at these Middle Eastern countries, and it's their people, their own people are building these mosques. Their own people are building these temples. And President Trump's like, why can't our own people build a new Air Force One? So this is actually Boeing's fault. So what President Trump did with Qatar is they signed an agreement so that Boeing will now start to build a brand new Air Force One. It's a good thing for America. This is not a bad thing. And then also slide 5 on President Trump's trip. He speaks at the Gulf Corporation Council meeting. We'll put up that slide. Again, slide 5. There we go. POTUS speaks at the Gulf Corporation Council meeting on peace. He says, quote, "I especially want to thank and congratulate the UAE and Bahrain for their vision and courage in signing the historic Abraham Accords." Like I said, I hope that in the near future, we can continue that progress. Now, I was a national faith leader for President Trump. I was on every single conference call in regards to faith. I was on that conference call with Jared Kushner, who's President Trump's son-in-law, Jason Greenblatt, the former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, my friend Rick Grenell, Peter Navarro, Bill Barr, there was a lot of big top names on those conference calls. And the biggest thing that they talked about was making sure that Saudi Arabia was next on the list. As you know, Jared Kushner, he does a lot of business with Saudi Arabia. He's been doing a lot of business with Saudi Arabia for years. But this is about bringing back Middle Eastern peace. And Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu has always said, I would love in my lifetime to take a flight from Tel Aviv Ben Gurion Airport to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He can't do that now. So for everybody that is saying that President Trump is screwing Israel, this comes from a perspective of a friend from Israel. He says, Trump is ensuring that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. Remember, Obama put us in that ridiculous and disgusting Iran nuclear deal, which gave Iran the power to obtain nuclear weapons in 10 years. When President Trump came in 2017, he got us out of the Iran nuclear deal. And then what happened? The minute Joe Biden goes in and Obama, he's got his voice with George Soros, they put us back in the Iran nuclear deal. Now that Trump's back in the White House, he's taking us out of the Iran nuclear deal. The main country is Iran. The main country to combat here is Iran, to literally started uprising in Iran so that the terrorists that are in Iran, the ones that were in charge of October 7th, will be demolished. That the terrorist organizations in Syria, in Lebanon, in Qatar, in all of these Middle Eastern countries, that their organizations go away. The Taliban gets reduced. Islamic Jihad, Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigade, they're all reduced to rubble, just like President Trump did in 2018 and 2019. And then the main leaders, the main governments of these countries will take over, just like the Egyptian government took over after the Muslim Brotherhood. Remember, under Obama, he brought in the Muslim Brotherhood. He got rid of Hosni Mubarak, who my grandfather knew, by the way, and he put in the Muslim Brotherhood for only a year. He brought the Muslim Brotherhood into the White House. They're a terrorist organization. And then the Egyptian government took back their country, took back over the government. They demolished the Muslim Brotherhood. Now the Muslim Brotherhood's not in power. But under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the terrorist organizations were on the uprise. Taliban was on the uprise. Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigade, Islamic Jihad, they were all on the uprise. Now under President Trump going into the Middle East, and this is very historic. President Trump is the first sitting U.S. president that's ever visited Qatar. That's very important. Now that President Trump is in the Middle East, he's talking to the president of Turkey, Erdogan. He's trying to form peace between Russia and Ukraine. The fact that he is wanting to end these horrific wars and to demolish all the terrorist organizations all over the world, the ones that especially murdered 1,200 innocent people on October 7th. How, again, is President Trump screwing Israel? How is President Trump screwing anybody here? He wants peace in the Middle East. He wants peace. He does not want America fighting these wars anymore. He wants the wars to end. But he wants, like I said last night and the night before, he wants the United States and Israel to move forward together, to be that superpower together. He always puts his biggest allies first and foremost. Even Netanyahu has said that President Trump is the biggest friend to Israel that we have. He's the most pro-Israel president we've ever had in the history of our nation. We all have to remember that. So again, President Trump is trying to demolish the Iran nuclear deal, making sure that Iran doesn't get nuclear weapons. As you know, Bibi Netanyahu has come to the House of Congress many times and said that Iran is the main problem. And he's also telling Qatar and Lebanon and Syria he's holding them to the fire, and he's forcing them to stop supporting the terrorist groups that are in this country. And after Adnan Alexandra, who was the last American hostage, he was brought back to Tenafly, New Jersey. President Trump spoke to him on the phone when he was in Qatar. Adnan will be visiting the White House later this month. Qatar said, we are so happy that the Israeli hostage is back. But then again, that's why President Trump is in Qatar right now, working with the Qatari government. He's trying to tell the Qatari government in a nice way, we know what you did. We know that you and the Iranian, the Ayatollah Khomeini's, the terrorist organizations of Iran, we know that you were involved with October 7th. If you keep supporting the terrorist organizations in your country, we won't do business with you. We'll have nothing to do with you, and no peace will ever happen. President Trump is going outside the box here. That's why he said, I would love for the United States to own Gaza, to be a Mara Gaza, a Riviera. And again, the Qatari president, in my opinion, and in many others' opinions, and a lot of Israelis' opinions, they feel that the more that President Trump is involved with the Mideast peace, the more that we can expand the Abraham Accords, the more the terrorists and the terrorist organizations will be demolished. Right now, in Israel today, they are doing everything they can to remove Hamas as much as possible. Now that Idan Alexander is brought back to America, now Israel is going in there and they're really fighting and they're really going to demolish Hamas. And that's what President Trump wanted from the beginning. He wanted Israel to go in there and take down Hamas, take down Hezbollah, take down all these terrorists, take down all this evil. And that's what President Trump has been saying to the Qatari kings, their presidents. We want to get rid of this evil. So I know the Qatari president, he said in a report with Brett Baer, he said, yes, we're so happy we have the Israeli hostage back into the country. But what did Israel do? They bombed innocent people, in Gaza. Qatar knows. They know that the Hamas uses the people there as shields. They know this. But Qatar is trying to play both sides here. They're not going to be able to play both sides anymore. Not with the negotiations and the deals that President Trump is doing. And again, the Qatari government with Lebanon, with the Syrian government, are going to be forced at the helm to stop supporting terrorist organizations. Also, Trump said in the meetings that he's there to help Israel, not to hurt Israel. He's there to help Israel. Again, Abraham Accords. Prime Minister Netanyahu, he said in the halls of Congress, he said, we want to call it the Abraham Alliance. We want to get as many countries in there as possible to be a part of this treaty. And again, Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco, UAE, they have kept the treaty since the first administration, since 2018, 2019. And another good thing coming out of this is that Hamas won't exist by the time this is all over. That is the underlining meaning of this. That is one of the underlining meanings of this trip, is that the terrorist organization Hamas will not exist by the time this is over. These countries are starting to play ball because President Trump is back in the White House. What other man can get such a greeting from these countries? I mean, the presidents, the kings, the princes are meeting President Trump at the tarmac. They didn't do that under Biden. They never gave Biden this respect. They respect Trump because he's a businessman. President Trump didn't go in there just as the president, he didn't go just as the president of the United States. He went in there as the businessman and as the builder. He knows how to build relationships. He's been doing business with these Middle Eastern people for years. He's got hotels all over the country and the world. He's had to work with these governments before. He knows what he is doing. Again, we have to trust the process. We have to trust President Trump here. Me as a Jew, I can tell you, I'm very happy with what I've seen. I don't feel that President Trump is screwing Israel. Again, you have to cut away from the propaganda. The propaganda, unfortunately, did very well this time. Because a lot of my friends that are hardcore Trump supporters, they started to believe the propaganda. You have to dissect the propaganda. You have to get away from the propaganda. And you have to actually really listen to Israelis that live there, the Israeli Defense Force, the government. People were telling me, on TikTok, they're all saying that Prime Minister Netanyahu is pissed at Trump. He doesn't like what's going on with Qatar. He doesn't like the deals that he's signing. He doesn't like this, doesn't like that. If you don't think that President Trump is speaking to Netanyahu throughout this whole process, because keep in mind, Israel wasn't mentioned once. Israel's not here in this meeting. There's a reason why. They are in the background. They're in the scenes. They're being told behind the scenes what's going on. If you don't think my friend Ron Dermer is on top of this, who works for Bibi Netanyahu, you're crazy. They're involved. In my opinion, Israel is like God here in the story of Purim, in the story of Ruth and Naomi, where God is not even mentioned. But Israel, even though they're not mentioned, they are so present. They are so in line with President Trump. They're in line with the United States. Again, it's about making peace better for our biggest ally, Israel. Because again, we have a lot of American Jews that live in Israel. Majority of them voted in our elections for President Trump. They voted 92% for him in 2016. They voted 98% for him in 2019. They voted 98% for him again in 2024. So you have to understand what's going on here. I tell my viewers, my Jewish viewers, do not lose faith here. Do not lose faith. Trust the process. Again, we have very good people in our administration. We got Stephen Miller. We got Dan Scavino Jr. We got Susan Wiles, Caroline Leavitt, Marco Rubio. We have Peter Navarro is back. We have Lee Zeldin. We have Pam Bondi. We have Tulsi Gabbard. We have people in our administration, Pete Hegseth, that support Israel. that have America's interest, that we have America's interest at heart, America's best interest at heart, but also that we will continue working with our biggest ally, Israel. There's no screwing of Israel going on here. And actually, slide number 6 talks about the White House. There we go. The White House has officially disclosed President Trump's historic strategic demands during his historic meeting with Syria's al-Shara. Al-Shara, he's the head of ISIS over there. Full normalization with Israel under the framework of the Abraham Accords, as I said, immediate deportation of Palestinian and foreign terrorist elements, coordinated operations with the United States to neutralize the resurgence of ISIS, assumption of full operational control over ISIS detention centers in northeastern Syria, constitutional guarantees ensuring the protection of religious minorities, particularly Christians, within the future political architecture of Syria. Because as you know, Syrian Christians are getting pummeled over there. The Israeli Defense Forces over there in Syria, making sure that the Syrian Christians are kept safe. That's what President Trump wants. And President Trump, he lifted sanctions against Syria. He did that on purpose as a strategic move to say, dudes in Syria, Syrian government, you better do as we say. You better do as we say. You better play ball. You better remove the terrorist organizations that are in there so we can have peace. That's why he asked them, be a part of the Abraham Accords. Be a part of the Abraham Accords. And we'll finish the end of that slide because I think the end of that slide got cut. Let's put the slide back up. And then the last part. This marks a decisive shift from chaos to calculated order, ushering in a new doctrine of regional stabilization through strength, deterrence, and uncompromising terms. Again, Abraham Accords, Abraham Accords, Abraham Accords, Abraham Accords. I've said it. My Jexit organization has said it. The women from Jexit have said it. Siggy Flicker, who's the Jexit spokesperson, she's got a direct connection to President Trump. She's part of the Holocaust Museum Council with my friend Sid Rosenberg, with my friend Miriam Adelson. These are, and Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee is the new Israeli ambassador. If you don't think that he's in coordination with President Trump, if you don't think he's been talking with President Trump, because he has to go back to Israel and tell the Israelis and work with the Israeli government and tell them what is going on. He's working with Ron Dermer right now, personally. He's working with a lot of good people that I know over in Israel. He's working with the Israeli Knesset. And Mike Huckabee said, there's no greater friend to Israel than President Trump. Mike Huckabee said there's no two-state solution. Caroline Leavitt, the White House spokesperson, who's very pro-Israel, she said there is no two-state solution. Like, this is crazy. And that was the propaganda that the Jerusalem Post was putting out. Haaretz, a lot of these liberal Israeli media outlets and the deep state of Israel was putting it out. Again, we don't know the real talks that are going on between Netanyahu and Israel unless you have friends that work in the IDF or you have friends that work in the Israeli government. You don't know, or if you have friends in the Mossad, or if you're in with the Mossad, you don't know. You don't know what's going on. So the speculations, the assumptions need to stop. The propaganda, again, people need to stop looking into it. People need to stop looking into the propaganda. And then today, the last slide, Nick Sorter, he said, just in, President Trump has arrived at the palace in Qatar, that was actually yesterday, for a state dinner with the Emir after signing deals worth over $100 billion with the country. A large welcoming ceremony is waiting for him outside. More deals are to come, but we are at over $700 billion so far. Look at that, $700 billion with Qatar, $600 billion with Saudi Arabia. Now President Trump is at UAE making bigger business deals and expanding the business deals that he already has with the United Arab Emirates. You know, as a Jew, I can go to the United Arab Emirates. As a Jew, I actually had the pleasure of listening to the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva, being sung in the United Arab Emirates. That never happened before Trump. That never happened. In Bahrain, they sing the Israeli national anthem. In Sudan, they sing the Israeli national anthem. But at the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi, which is a very luxurious area, which has a lot of money, which has beauty everywhere. I mean, the marble is fresh. It looks like it was just put in. It looks like they remodel it every week. It's gorgeous there. That mosque was gorgeous. That beautiful tour. I saw President Trump take that tour of the mosque in Abu Dhabi. It was gorgeous. But to say that as a Jew, I can go over there without being attacked and without being denied, to say that I can go as a Jew to UAE and sing the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva, that's something that Bibi Netanyahu has been trying to do for years. But only President Trump did it. Only President Trump did it. Only he can do it. And that's why this trip is so significant. President Trump even talked about being there for another day. I know that he's in talks with Turkey right now. I know, again, he's trying to make peace with Ukraine and Russia and stop that war. But being over there in the Middle East was very important. And let me tell you, President Trump will be in Israel soon, very soon. Even if he comes next year, it's okay. A lot of people are like, why isn't he going to Israel? Why isn't he circling back to Israel? Israel's right around the corner. Believe me, he can go to Israel anytime he wants to. But I want to clarify for my Jewish viewers, for President Trump's Jewish constituents, that the United States is not screwing Israel. President Trump is not screwing Israel. People are nervous. They're like, oh, he's kissing the butt of the king, of the prince. You don't know what President Trump is really thinking and feeling. President Trump would never throw Israel under the bus. Remember, everyone, he's got a Jewish child. He's got a Jewish son-in-law, Jewish grandchildren. He's not an Adam Schiff. He's not a Jerry Nadler. He's not a Jamie Raskin that goes against their own. President Trump is better to the Jews than a lot of the Jewish congressmen and the Jewish senators in power, and everybody knows that. So I hope, if nobody has, to go back and rewatch the speeches that President Trump gave in Saudi Arabia and Qatar and UAE. Look at the peace deals and the agreements that he signed on this beautiful trip. And again, clear out all the propaganda. Don't read it. Don't look into it. Again, we are not the mainstream media. We are not fake news. We will always report fairly and honestly. That is my job, to report fairly and to report the policies that President Trump is putting into place to better our country, to better the world. Because when America is thriving, we're all thriving together. We as Americans, we are thriving together when America is strong. And when America is strong, our enemies back the heck off. Coming back after the break, we have a strong person, a strong fighter. He is fighting to run for the House of Delegates in Baltimore County, District 11A. Our friend Yahoo Blackwell, he will be with us right after the break.
Tapes that you're no longer able to watch? Need them transferred to DVD, Blu-ray, or your smart device? Baltimore Digital offers professional-grade VHS, mini DV, and high 8 digitizing services. We can also convert Super 8mm film too. Baltimore Digital also provides photo restoration services. Visit archive.baltimoredigital.net. Mention code Alexandra for a 10% introductory.
And this is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. Our special guest tonight is Yahoo Blackwell. He is running for the House of Delegates in Maryland, District 11A. It is such a pleasure to have him on. There's his picture. He was a professional boxer. Like I said, we need fighters going to Annapolis because Annapolis is crazy. They have too many Democrats in Annapolis. So now this young man is stepping out of the ring into wanting to come into the political arena. And we're so happy that he is coming in. There was a thunderous applause for him at the Baltimore County Republican Central Committee on Monday night. People are really starting to support him and really starting to stand with him and stand by him. And he's really getting his word out. So thank you so much, Yahoo, for coming on. We'll bring him up right now.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Truly appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. So Yahoo, tell us a little bit about your background. You were a professional boxer. Now you want to run for politics? What's up with that?
Yes. From one arena to the next. So, I'm just looking at the direction that Maryland has been going. And I said, I got to do something about this. And so I decided to run. So I was already in a position of governance with OSU. So I said, why not? I spoke to some of my elders about it and some of the OSU community about it. And I said, you know what? I want to, partake in the fight for Maryland, especially my great-great-grandfather. He fought in the Civil War coming out of Maryland, coming out of Baltimore. So, I got ancestors with, blood in the soil of Maryland. So I said, I have to do my part. And so here I am.
So, Yahoo, your district, unfortunately, is very Democrat. You're running against an incumbent Democrat who's been there for a long time.
Yes.
What is your strategy to get a lot of the Democrats, independents in your district to #leave the Democrat Party and vote Republican?
Well, I want the people to understand that, the Democratic Party has, has gone far left. They're completely unrecognizable, and the things that they stand on is just against human decency at this point. It has gone beyond politics. At this point, it's just downright wrong as us just as human beings. Some of the things that they're trying to push in our communities. And so, I'm going to just speak to people from the heart and just let them know, yes, I am a Republican, but this is beyond red and blue. We have to look at this as human beings and see that, this is just not right morally as people.
Now, you said you were always a Republican, which is very commendable because a lot of the Black Republicans that I've worked with, they switched to Republican just because they didn't like the party.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to those, Black Democrats that are a little, they feel like you're kind of a traitor because you're a Black Republican?
Yeah, a lot of my, the Black community, I just feel like they're just not informed on history. So normally what I hear is a Republican mean rich, Democrat mean poor, right? And they don't know the history, behind the Republican Party. And one of the things I always tell them is that Frederick Douglass was a Republican. So a lot of people in the Black community, they don't understand that. They don't know that the American African was freed by the Republican Party, that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment came from the Republican Party. My great-great-grandfather fought in the Civil War, but he was a slave in Northumberland County, Virginia, at the Anchorage Plantation. It was called the Walnut Lodge back then. And he was freed by General Hugh Judson Kilpatrick, who was a Republican. So I wouldn't even exist today if it was not for the Republican Party standing up to do what was humanly right. So, but a lot of people in the Black community, they don't know the history behind the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. They just think that one means rich, one means poor. And it's so much further from the truth. Abraham Lincoln, who helped free the American African, was a Republican. So, I'm going to explain to them that our loyalty and our allegiance, needs to be to the Republican Party, because we wouldn't even be in the positions we are today to be doctors, lawyers, educators, et cetera, if the Republican Party didn't stand up and fight for our human rights. And so I think they just need to understand that, because it's something that has not been taught.
Now, unfortunately, you have a governor who is Black, Governor Westmore in Maryland, and a lot of people feel that he is dividing between Black versus white. He calls himself a DEI leader. So does Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore City, who's also Black. What say you about that, about him combating President Trump's executive orders to remove the DEI programs?
I think that's terrible. I think that anything that's coming down from President Trump, that we as American people, we need to support it. I think that President Trump has the best interests of this country at heart. And I think he's demonstrated that. We've witnessed, many administrations from Biden to, so forth. And it's just been nothing but empty promises. So, Trump from day one, whether if you like him or not, he's always stood on business. And, he's always said he's always done what he said he was going to do. And I respect the man greatly, because he didn't have to stand up and do this. And, I don't understand why, people are having a hard time with it, because we witnessed several administrations prior to Trump and, the damages that it has done to America. So
that's a great point. No, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And again, your governor and your attorney general and the mayor of Baltimore City, Brandon Scott, they're combating, President Trump on the illegal immigration. The fact that your Senator Chris Van Hollen, Congressman Fizzle Gray, Congressman Johnny Olszewski, Congressman Jamie Raskin, they were supporting this, quote, Maryland man who is a known MS-13 gang member. And Chris Van Hollen, on your taxpayer dollars, flew to El Salvador to try to bring Kilmar back, which, of course, is not going to happen under President Bukaic. I mean, Kilmar is home. What say you about that?
I think that it's a slap in the American people's face. Our tax dollars are going to things that, A, is morally wrong, and things that's none of our business, honestly. I think that President Trump did the correct thing with deporting him out the country, and we should stand on that. We can't go to other countries and do this. So, uh, I'm trying to figure out why people feel like they can come here and do these things. So, I feel like shame on them for supporting that. It was federal orders from the president, and as American people, we need to stand by our president. Like I said, I think Trump has the best interests of the American people at heart. He's demonstrated that. He's shown that, and we need to support him from every state on down.
Now, your governor is literally sitting on a reparations bill. He has to decide whether he's going to sign that, African American people should get reparations. Now, you're an African American man, you're a Black man. What say you about that?
I don't believe he's going to sign it.
And why?
I think that it's just another, some more tokenism, in my opinion. It's something that's been discussed for years and years and years, and decades and decades, and we've never seen it. And this is something also that I want, my peers to see and understand that, the story always sounds great. There's always, a great story and a great narrative, and, and it feels good, but nothing never comes of it. And I want them to see that. And I want them to actually, go back and look at how many promises was kept by the Democratic Party. And it's very close to zero. So again, great story, great narrative, no results.
Well, as you know, it's been a year since the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge was destroyed, taken down by that ship. And for some reason, your governor wants to wait till 2028 to fully rebuild. He actually just put up a picture of what it would look like. And it's been a year later. Because this bridge is not up, it has been hurting your trade. It's been hurting transportation back and forth, especially with the big cargo, or not cargo, but the big trucks like Amazon and so forth. And your governor even talked about changing the name of the Francis Scott Key Bridge because he claimed that Francis Scott Key was a racist. And he wanted to change the name to the Harriet Tubman Bridge or the Martin Luther King Jr. Bridge. What say you about that?
Same thing, more tokenism. I think these are just tactics to continue to get the Black vote. But again, there's no actual, progression behind any of these things. And, I see through it, renaming the bridge does nothing for our communities. So I feel as though that it's just more, tokenism, more marketing, but there's no substance behind that. I think that bridge should have been, handled and repaired. And I just think that we just need new leadership. There's a huge, waste of funds that's going on in Maryland. We're losing some of our biggest companies, some of our biggest factories, McCormick, Six Flags, Under Armour. I grew up going to Six Flags. So, to see this happening right before my eyes, it's just a clear sign that we need new leadership. And that's just what it is.
And again, I just want to point it to my audience. This is coming from a Black Democrat. The governor is a Black Democrat. Mm-hmm. Brandon Scott is a Black Democrat. Anthony Brown is a Black Democrat. And we're noticing that these Black Democrats in Baltimore County and Baltimore City and the entire state, because Governor Westmore is the governor of the entire state, Attorney General Anthony Brown is the Attorney General of the entire state. Mm-hmm. Under these Black Democrats, your state is being destroyed.
Correct.
Isn't that one of the arguments that you're making?
Correct. 1,000%. 1,000%. And no one can, pull the race card on me because, I'm a Black man as well. So, I'm pointing this out because, it's the truth. So, and I need for, everyone in my district and in Maryland to see this, as well. So, we're declining, even down to the Six Flags thing. I was telling somebody, I can't even take my kids there, and I grew up going to Six Flags, So, we're watching destruction happen right before our eyes. And we, the people, we have the power to change that. So we need to step up and do that and not, look at this from an emotional standpoint. because that's what the Democratic Party do. They try to tap into our emotions and show us a bunch of shiny things, but again, it never bears any fruit. So we need to start doing what's best for Marylanders. We need to start doing what's best for the state. We need to start doing what's best for the future generations to come, and that's going to require new leadership.
I'm glad that you brought up children because, education is a big factor in all of this, educating people in the home and outside. But unfortunately, your state of Maryland, the education numbers are not great at all, especially in Baltimore County and Baltimore City. The African-American numbers in reading and in mathematics is very low compared to other states. The Department of Education head, Linda McMahon, she actually commented on it. So did President Trump, how Baltimore schools, Baltimore City schools are really failing. And it's very sad because it never used to be that way. As a delegate, what law would you put into place to help education in schools?
Well, I definitely want to write a law that's going to, put more money behind education so that our kids are getting better teachers. I feel like the teachers also need, better pay, better benefits, et cetera, to motivate them to come there and teach the children. And, just better resources all the way around the board. And, we just got to, put some money behind the education department and, put things in place so that we can teach our children better. And even at some of the restaurants that I owned, we hire, youth in the community, and a lot of them can't even count money. So, I'm not trying to, downplay anybody, but it just goes to show, just how far behind we are in education. So, that'd be definitely one of the biggest things that I tackle is fixing our education in Maryland.
I think one of the arguments is that we're giving too much money to the education and it's not going anywhere. And I think one of the arguments was, and Brenda Chaim said this a couple nights ago, that we need to start vetting our teachers, that we're actually not getting proper teachers in there.
Correct.
And we need to implement school choice. What say you about that?
I totally agree. 1,000%, 1,010%. Everybody doesn't learn the same. And, just like you said, get better teaching strategy. And so that we can, get these kids up to speed, because it's definitely a decline. The kids, I own Aritas, and the kids there, some of the kids there can't count money. So, it just goes to show that we need to tighten up on our education department.
Now, I know it's going to be hard for you in the House of Delegates because you will be in the minority as a Republican. And unfortunately, the General Assembly is made up of Democrats. So if you had a Republican governor in there, there's still that override, the veto override.
Yes.
What can you do as a lawmaker to work to cross the aisle, to pass bipartisan bills that you feel will help the children in your district, will help the people in your district, your constituents in the district? What is that strategy going in, knowing that you're going to be the minority?
I'm just going to have to just speak to people from the heart and just let them know, you need to look at, at yourself as a human being, from human being to human being. What is the right thing to do? And, even when I'm speaking to the Democratic Party, that's one of the things I'm going to, say to them, that, party aside, from human being to human being, what should we be doing for, the better of Maryland and the greater good of our children? Because that's what's important at the end of the day. It's not about wins and losses. We're dealing with, our communities and our families. So we need to put that to the side. If we're at odds on something, we just need to look at this as human beings. And what does your heart tell you as a human being? So that's one of the things I plan on, just talking to them from, human to human, to get some of this stuff passed, because it's just morally correct.
Now, Governor Westmore in this session, he passed a huge Section 8 bill. Of course, there's a lot of low-income people that live in the state of Maryland, but one of the biggest things he passed, which is really hurting the constituents of Fort Howard, is that he passed Section 8 near Fort Howard, which is a historic landmark. It's where the Battle of 1812 took place. What say you about that too? Is there any possibility, or are you thinking about possibly overriding the illegal bill that Governor Moore passed? What is your strategy to either reduce Section 8 or have Section 8 for certain people and so forth. Because again, we want to build the economy back in Maryland. When you're putting Section 8 in these houses or these neighborhoods that are worth, 500,000 to $1 million, and you put Section 8 in that neighborhood, it devalues and depreciates that person's house. And then you don't know who the heck is going into your neighborhood.
That is true. That is true. I think that's pushing us backwards. That's pushing us backwards, not forward. So I think it's a horrible strategy. No disrespect to anybody, but I just think it's not the strategy for progression and the way forward. So I definitely would be challenging that. 1,000%. Everything you said is 1,000% correct, and I will be challenging that.
And what is the main strategy that you want to do to help our veterans? I know that you have a very strong place in your heart for veterans. There's a lot of homeless veterans out there, and a lot of people feel that Governor Westmore and Brandon Scott are caring more about these illegals. And you see that with even on the federal level, these congressmen, these senators, they're supporting illegals more so than our veterans. What is your strategy to helping our veterans and getting them off the street?
I've never seen anything like it. We got to take care of home first. Again, these are all just human, natural responses. Like, we know we're supposed to take care of home first. These people defended our country, fought for our country. The freedoms and liberties that we have today, they've contributed to that. So the fact that they're sitting outside, wondering where their next meal is coming from, but we're dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into illegal immigrants is just ridiculous. I feel like it's just against every law of just common sense at this point. So, I plan on putting them first. I plan on making sure they have the resources that they need, the housing that they need, and, the things that they need to be, citizens, in our country. So, I'm totally against that. I'm not, against people. I love all people, but we have to put Americans first. We have to put Marylanders first, because that's home.
I agree with you. Now, as you know, a lot of people are unfortunately leaving the state of Maryland because the cost of living has gotten so outrageous. Unfortunately, your governor is bankrupting your state every single day, especially with all these bills, these passing with these huge tax hikes. It's very hard for Marylanders to continue living in your state.
It is.
What do you say to your constituents or your potential constituents? What do you say to them to try to convince them to stay? What laws are you thinking of putting into place to make Maryland safe again, to assure or reassure to your constituents that, my district, it was better 30 years ago, but I'm going to make it better now?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be, attacking taxation 100%. Like I said, Maryland is becoming, unbearable at this point. The taxation that Westmore is trying to implement is forcing people out. Just like I said, McCormick is leaving, which is just insane. I think they've been here, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, like 100 years or something.
Something years old, yeah.
Yeah. So to lose them is a sign in itself to let you know something bad is going on. And so I definitely will be, attacking, the taxation, problem, so that Marylanders have more money in their pockets and can take care of their families. So I'm going to come up with some great strategies to sit down, with the powers that be and the people who, are really great at, solving these kind of issues. And we're going to come up with a strategy that works for everybody, so that Marylanders can take care of their families and take some of the strain off of, the working class people.
What do you think about your congressman, Johnny Oshevsky? He's the new congressman. He's combating Doge every single day. Congressman Fizzle Gray in District 7, CD7, he says he wants to arrest Elon Musk and arrest President Trump. I mean, these people like, Johnny Oshevsky, who's your congressman, I mean, this affects your district. This affects your constituents, and they're combating Doge every single day. Johnny Oshevsky actually wrote an op-ed for Fox News that said, if you want to know how to balance a budget, President Trump, talk to me. I'll balance a budget with you. But he was your former county executive. Did he really balance the budget well in Baltimore County?
Right, correct. Yep, you're absolutely right. Anybody's going against Doge is just out of line. It's just out of line. Doge is doing their job. I think they're doing a wonderful job. We just had a woman not too long ago in Maryland who was killed by an illegal immigrant.
Rachel Moore.
And then where's the outrage and the outcry about that? So they're doing their job. They're doing their job, and I think that it's important. And I'm grateful to President Trump that he put Doge in place so that the United States can be a safer place, and so that our resources can be allocated to the people that it's supposed to be allocated to. Again, I'm not against people coming in the country, but like you said, there's a protocol. It has to be done the right way. And there's anyone who's standing against that is, in my opinion, is kind of like an enemy to the American people. So, like I said, I can't go to China and just set up shop and do all this stuff and take the resources from everybody else. So, they're going to protect home first, and Americans need to do the same thing. Marylanders need to do the same thing. We need to make sure our homes, our families, our children's futures are secure. Before we put other people's problems before our own. So, anyone who's combating against Doge, they're out of line. Um, and we need to stand with President Trump to make sure that our communities are safe and that the resources are being allocated to the people that's supposed to be allocated to.
And the sad part is that the majority of Marylanders and the majority of people over the country, they actually support Doge. They actually support that Elon Musk is getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. The
Correct.
fact that your governor and that your congressman, other congressmen and senators are combating Doge on this is just asinine and insane.
It
And I
is.
think they just, don't like the fact that, Elon Musk is almost a trillionaire. And I think they're jealous of him, so to speak. I really do. And then, people that were going out, destroying Teslas. I mean, that's insane.
It
That's
is.
just really insane.
It is.
Also, going back to the crime in Baltimore County, there's a lot of crime, high crime in
It
Baltimore
is.
County and Baltimore City, especially in the last 10 to 12 years. Your Baltimore County sheriff, I'll be honest with you, Jeff Fisher hasn't done anything. He's been very silent. The
Right.
fact that he's been your sheriff for almost 30 years is insane. The fact that he keeps getting reelected is even more insane.
Yes.
As a delegate, what legislation are you going to put forward to lower the crime that's happening in your district and in your state?
I plan on focusing on education. I feel like poor education is a gateway to crime. So I feel as though that if we start attacking education more, that in itself will start eliminating crime. So one of the things I've learned growing up in Baltimore is that um, it's always the people who have nothing to lose who's committing the crimes. So if we tighten up on education, and these young men are coming out of school with a promising future, they have something to look forward to. I feel like that will eliminate, start self-eliminating crime within itself, because the criminals that I've seen are always the people who have nothing to lose. The people who actually have something to lose, have something to look forward to, have plans, etc., etc. They're less likely to commit crimes. So and I think that's connected to education. On the other hand, of course, tightening up on, like you said, the sheriff department, the police department, making sure they have the resources they need to do their jobs as well. So I think the two work hand in hand, tightening up on education and also backing our law enforcement to make sure that they can effectively do their jobs and serving our community.
And a couple more questions. So this last question goes, to home, especially we talked about schools, but we have to talk about the colleges and universities that had the uprise of anti-Semitism, specifically University of Maryland and Towson University. Towson University, the student committee tried to pass a BDS resolution, boycott, divest, and sanction, which thank God was a non-binding resolution. It was shut down. But as a lawmaker, what steps are you going to take to combat the anti-Semitism happening on these college campuses?
Yeah, it will not be tolerated. It will not be tolerated. There will be no anti-Semitism um, at all. So I will definitely make sure I implement whatever laws or rulings that needs to be put in place to make sure the Jewish people are protected and that everyone is treated as human beings. It just goes back to the same, it's just human courtesy. We all need to treat each other with love and with respect. We all living in the same place. We're all passing through this earth just like everybody else. So, just human decency. So I would definitely make sure that the Jewish community is protected, that anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in any form or fashion.
That's great. And I just want to say for the record that I worked with the House and the Senate in Annapolis with State Senator now Orthodox woman Dalia Attar. We pushed the resolution to remove CARE from the Anti-Hate Commission, and we won. It was a unanimous vote on all sides, and of course the governor had to sign it because it was voted unanimously. So those are things that you can work on with Dalia Attar and other Democrats in the delegation once you get there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So tell us, Yahar, tell us how we can find you, number one, how we can donate to you, but tell us your main goal in getting Democrats or Black Democrats in your district, Black Hispanics in your district, and even Jewish Democrats in your district to cross the aisle, possibly to change their parties now for the primary to vote for you. Or if you can't get them to change in the primary, let's say you win the primary, go to the general, how can you get a lot of those voices, a lot of those constituents to hashtag leave the Democrat Party, vote Republican?
Well, right now the ship is going down, and it's happening right before our eyes, and I'm going to, get them to see that, and to get them to see that, the only way that we can repair this, is, with the Republican Party. Sadly to say, it's the party of common sense, and I just want them to get to see that and understand that. Again, I'm going to just speak to the hearts of the people and just let them know that, we're dealing with, just human moral decency here. It's not rocket science. It's not, it's none of that. Like, we can search within ourselves and tell that this is just the right thing to do as human beings. And I hope that they see that and see that we all need to band together and pull together to save Maryland, to save the United States. I think God has given us another go round at this to get this right, and we need to take advantage of it. I'm grateful to President Trump. He's the first president I've ever seen that is, putting America first and doing the things necessary so that we can be strong again. As you said before, if America is strong, everybody else is strong. It's the central hub. So we need to pull together, we need to band together. The Democratic Party is tearing us down. And we've been seeing that for years and years and years. So it's not nothing new. We just having a blind eye to it. So it's time for us to just wake up and do the right thing. And I'm hoping that they see that the Republican Party is the party of common sense, and it's time for us to do what's right for the future and do what's right for our children.
Well, Yahoo, tell my audience how we can find you on social media, how we can donate to your campaign.
Yes. I'm on social media at Yahoo_Rock Blackwell. My campaign page is at Blackwell 4MD, the number 4MD. And the website will be up soon where you can donate to the campaign. And, I'm going to fight hard for Maryland. Again, I'm the voice of the people. So I'm going to push hard for Maryland. And, the Democrat Party, they can't use the race thing or this, that against me because I'm a Black man as well. So I'm calling out the issues that I'm seeing, even as a Black man in my state, in my communities, and enough is enough. So I'm standing up for the right thing.
And I can tell you, there's a lot more Black Republicans that are starting to come out, especially in Maryland, Baltimore County, Baltimore City.
Yes,
a lot of them. They're coming out. So Governor Westmore, Brandon Scott, watch out. Again, the horrors that are happening in Maryland is because of Black Democrats.
Correct.
So maybe, like President Trump said to the African-American community, what the hell do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
Exactly. So I say to your constituents, what the hell do you have to lose by voting for Yahoo Blackwell? Try a little something new, try a little something different.
That's right. 1,000%. And, I'm no stranger to a fight. As you all know, I've been a boxer. And so, one thing boxing has taught me is, perseverance. It's given me that grit, that, the ability to push forward even, when I feel pain. So, I feel like that's who you want fighting, for you. Someone who's up for the challenge, someone who's not afraid of a fight, someone who's, won't back down and is going to do what it takes to get us to a championship.
Awesome.
And that's why I'm here.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Again, follow Yahoo, Yahoo_Blackwell, and then at Blackwell, the number 4 MD. Please follow him, guys. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
No, I love it. I love it. No, it was great.
Yes.
And everybody, again, follow Mr. Yahoo, and we will be back right after the break.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Levine. I'm a professional opera singer, actress, TV, and radio personality. Since 2015, I've been a volunteer, a field director, and a campaign manager, learning the ins and outs of the political world. That's why I became a political consultant. My job is to lead you to victory with organization, structure, and the mindset of winning for your district or state. With my guidance and direction, I can keep you focused on the things that matter to the people and advise you on key issues that need to be addressed. If you're a serious candidate that is serious about winning, then book a consultation with me today. Go to levineconsulting.co. You'll be happy you did. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. Segment 3, impeachment hoax number 4, everybody. How many more times do the Democrats have to impeach a duly elected president, President Trump? And what are they trying to impeach him for? This is asinine and ridiculous. He hasn't even been president for a year. What has he done that's in an impeachable defense? Well, you have idiot Democrat congressmen that think this is okay to do. And the timing of this couldn't be more perfect for them. They literally strategically tried to throw articles of impeachment against President Trump while he's over in the Middle East, trying to make peace in the Middle East. This is ridiculous. It was so ridiculous that actually the Speaker minority, Hakeem Jeffries of the Democrat Party, said, this is crazy. We're not going to bring a vote to the floor. Nobody's for it. You may get 1 or 2 votes if you're lucky. But this congressman who has a weird wig, who I hate to say it looks like a woman, came to this country from India, came to this country, obtained legal citizenship, became a congressman, and this is what he does. And we'll put up the first slide. Breaking. Congressman Sharu Thanader from Michigan has officially missed the deadline to call a vote on Trump's impeachment, meaning his effort has failed today. What an absolute clown. So that tweet was written actually yesterday. He wanted to bring a vote to the floor today. And Speaker Johnson said, heck no. Speaker Johnson actually, he said, we're not having any votes tomorrow, which is Friday. He said, running all the votes on Thursday, but he failed to bring it up in time. But again, even if he tried to bring it up, who the heck would have voted for that? Even Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia said, this is crazy and ridiculous. This is what the Democrats do on taxpayer dollars. They're throwing in articles of impeachment when it's not even popular. President Trump's popularity rate is through the roof, He's more popular now than he was when he first got in there. He's throwing more executive orders now than he ever has. He's doing more peace dealings in 100 days than Joe Biden did in 4 years, than Obama did in 8 years. He is breaking records. He's making history on a daily basis. And this moron Democrat congressman from Michigan who's got a terrible wig and looks like a woman and barely speaks English wants to throw articles of impeachment. And then he does a press conference with only 10 people behind him. That was it. It wasn't like hundreds and thousands of people. It was 10 people behind him in a press conference saying, I know I couldn't get the vote today and I couldn't put a vote to the floor, but I'm going to continue to write articles of impeachment. Every single illegal thing that President Trump does, I'm going to put it in to my articles of impeachment. I mean, this is just insane. I really hope that the people of Michigan wake up and they vote him out. I hope that he's removed from Congress. I mean, stripping a congressman or a woman of their committees does nothing. You have to literally remove them from Congress, because the more you keep these congressmen and senators in place, the more havoc they're going to cause. That's why we need term limits. Term limits. I don't know if I'll ever see it in my lifetime, but there are congressmen out there that have called for term limits. And I say, put your words to the fire. If you are a congressman or senator that said we should have term limits, then term yourself out. Retire after 12 years. Retire after 6 years. Retire after 4 to 6 years if you're a congressman. Retire. Don't stay there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Get young, fresh blood in there. I have young, fresh blood that's on my show all the time. They'd be great congressmen and senators. They're going to make a difference. The new generation, the younger generation needs to get in there. We can't keep having the same olds, the Chuck Schumers of the world, the Jerry Nadlers of the world, the Adam Schiffs of the world. The more you keep the squad in, they're going to run for president. God forbid we have Hakeem Jeffries as our Speaker of the House. He's an anti-Semite. I mean, these are the type of people that are in power right now. It's a real problem. And then with slide number 2, Congressman Shiri again, what did he say? He said, in this country, we have presidents, not kings. Today, I introduce my articles of impeachment on the House floor. Well, who is he referring to? Who is he referring to? We have a president. His name is President Donald J. Trump. Does he call himself King Trump? No. They have kings in Saudi Arabia. They have kings in Middle Eastern countries. That's where President Trump is today. He's hanging out with princes and kings. President Trump does not call or consider himself a prince or a king. But this is the Democrat talking point. They think that President Trump is a king and he's a dictator and all this crap. Let me tell you something. All this crap that Democrats throw in, these articles of impeachment, whatever, all these things that they've accused President Trump of doing, they do themselves. It's really disgusting. It's really, really disgusting about what these Democrats do. Then we're seeing videos of Democrats sleeping when they're having floor hearings, on Senate floor hearings, on congressional floor hearings. There's an image of a senator, Debbie Dingell from Michigan. We'll put up that image. She's sleeping on the Senate floor. There she is. So that's not the real image, but this image is funny. So she's literally sleeping, and it shows President Trump writing MAGA on her face. I love it. I mean, they're trying to, I know that there's Republicans that are trying to get her out. But that's what's going on in the Democrat Party. Put that image up again, Damon. I want my audience to see this. That's the senator from Michigan, by the way, Debbie Dingell. Debbie Dingell, who, when her husband died, under President Trump's first term, he did everything he could to accommodate her husband's funeral. He did everything, and she actually thanked him for it. But this is where our taxpayer our dollars are going to. A senator from Michigan sleeping. Again, Sharuth Thanader is a congressman from Michigan. So you have this Michigan old senator who's been there for 30-something years. I think she's like in her late 70s, close to 80s already, maybe 80s already. She's there sleeping. You have other Democrat congressmen that are sleeping. And then you have this Democrat congressman from Michigan who's throwing articles of impeachment. He must be sleeping because the only thing that he's doing is pushing articles of impeachment. I mean, this is insane, folks. This is insane. If you live in Michigan, and we had Allison Reedy on here, I think Sharu is her congressman. She's hashtag had enough. Remember, President Trump won the state of Michigan big time in 2024. Big time, big league. Remember, there was supposed to be a Republican senator, or excuse me, there was supposed to be a guy that was supposed to flip the Republican Senate seat in Michigan. This is what happens when you continuously have Democrat leadership in Congress. They fall asleep, they don't do the work, and they just bitch about President Trump. There was actually one congressman recently, his name is Congressman Kohana. He actually said we need to codify President Trump's executive order about dropping the prescription drugs, about lowering the cost of the prescription drugs, not letting big pharma get the best of us. Now, some people said, he was just doing that for 15 minutes of fame to take the credit. But Roy Kohana, who's a Democrat, he said, if for me as a Democrat, because I don't agree with President Trump and everything, but for me to cross the aisle and want to work with President Trump to codify his executive order to lower the cost of prescription drugs, why can't more Democrats get behind me? And that's what needs to happen. In the halls of Congress today, Republicans and Democrats, they need to start codifying President Trump's executive orders. They need to start pushing through the DEI executive order, the combating illegal immigration, which I know they're trying to do, but they need to work harder. They need to push a lot of the executive orders that President Trump has pushed through. There's so many of them. There's hundreds. Why aren't they codifying these executive orders? Why is Congress just sitting and not doing the job? A lot of constituents, they come to me. They're very upset that Congress just continues to take off vacation after vacation, days after days, and now they're sleeping. And I have friends that are Democrats, Republicans, that have representatives that are Democrats and Republicans that want to know what the heck. They want to know, why are they not working for us? They need to work for us. We don't work for them. They work for us. Remember, we the people voted you in office. We the people voted for President Trump. We the people voted for Debbie Dingell. We the people voted for Sharuth Thanader and the squad. I question some of these senators and congressmen how they got in. Because remember, if you live in a liberal state, election fraud is very rampant. You have a lot of illegals that vote in these elections. A lot of dead people vote in the elections too. Isn't that great? But again, this is crazy. President Trump is over in the Middle East doing good. And you have this crazy congressman who comes out of nowhere with articles of impeachment. Less than a year that President Trump has been in office. What is he trying to prove? What is he trying to prove? I think he's trying to prove that he's an idiot. As you know, the tagline of my show is "You are no idiot." That's why you listen, that's why you watch. But this guy's an idiot. Maybe you should watch my show and not be an idiot. Get educated. And again, I open up my door to Democrats, Republicans, Independents, anybody that wants to come on my program. Again, we're not fake news. We're not mainstream media. We will report fairly. I would ask this congressman, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you going against your constituents? Why are you going against we the people? Why are you trying to be the big man on campus? You're the minority trying to be the majority. Those days are over. Thank God that Kamala Harris didn't win. Thank God. Look, we all put up with Barack Hussein Obama for 8 years. It was horrible. I had a horrible 8 years. And then we all put up with Joe Biden for 4 years. But it wasn't really Joe Biden controlling anything. It was really Obama and George Soros. It was just Obama 3.0. We all put up with it. People in Maryland, unfortunately, putting up with Governor Wes Moore. They have a choice, though, to get rid of him in 2 years. Or a year, I should say, 2026. We the people, because we put President Trump in power, we have more power than ever before. More power than ever before. Now we have the power to really do something. Now we have the power to really get in there and get the right people in office. This guy, Tharu Sharadi, he needs to be removed from office. He needs to be removed from office. Because we can't have morons like this. We can't have idiots like this. In power. The more that these people are in power, the worse it gets. That's why we need term limits. I hope and pray to God that Congress one day passes term limits. President Trump has talked about passing term limits. And again, it's about fixing our election system as well. We still have so many problems. There's still a lot of fraud all over the country. We have liberal states that don't allow photo ID, like the state of Maryland. Arizona's got a lot of problems over there. Nevada does too. Again, it's corrupt internal election personnel. That's the biggest thing that we have to fight to get our elections back on track. It's not rocket science. I hope that maybe the Republicans in Congress, they combat people like Sharuth and Nader, that they codify President Trump's executive orders, that they enhance his agenda as much as they can. Because if not, all is lost and Democrats will have power. And we Republicans, we can't be complicit. Everyone's, a lot of people are just sitting back in their chair. They're happy. They're drinking their beer, They're so happy. But President Trump's doing the majority of the work. We, the people that put him in there, need to start doing the majority of the work. If you're thinking of running for office, you need to start raising money now. You need to get your name out there now. You need to go on TV. You need to do fundraisers. You need to do everything you can so people know your name. Start knocking on doors. If you're running in a year and a half, you need to start campaigning now. You cannot wait 6 months until an election to decide you want to run or you want to fundraise. I tell people if they want to run for Senate, they need 2 years in advance. 2 years in advance of campaigning. You want to run for Congress? You need 2 years, two to 2.5 years in advance. If you want to run for state delegate or state Senate, that's a 4-year office. You need to start campaigning 3 years in advance. Governor, 3 years in advance. You can't wake up and say, I think I'm going to run for governor. I think I'm going to run for mayor. I think I'm going to run for Congress. And then it's already February, and then the election's in November. It's too late. At that point, you don't even run. At the point, you don't run. And then you wonder why you don't win. Because you're not putting the time and the effort. As a political consultant, my job is to work with candidates that are serious, that know the issues and that know the role in the job. I've talked to a lot of people that want to run, but they don't know the role. They don't know their job. I'm very picky and particular who I work with now. In the beginning, I was, naive, and I was, just getting off the rise of being a campaign manager. And I wanted to work with everybody. But I wasn't picky and particular. I wasn't as strict. I love the fact that people had the heart to run, but they didn't know how to run. They didn't put out a business plan. They just said, I need you to help me do everything. That's not the job of a political consultant. It's not our job to run your entire campaign. You have to put in some of the work too. You have to do some of the effort. But the more I've done this, the more candidates I've worked with, the more people that I've talked to, I'm very honest and objective. I will tell you if you're going to win or not, if you have a chime-in's chance in hell or not, or if they want to run for Congress, and I think that they'll be better in a state delegate or state Senate seat, then I'll advise them that way, or state representative seat, I'll advise them that way. I'm not just going to be like, yeah, go run for that. If I don't think that they're ready, I will tell them they're not ready. If I think they're ready, then I'll tell them. Or sometimes I vetted my own people. And I say, you know what? You'd be really good to run for governor. You'd be really good to run for Congress. You'd be really good as a delegate. We need people in there now that know the job, that understand the job, that are willing to do the job, and are willing to listen to their constituents. And that know how to lead. I heard that in Maryland, they're trying to, find people that will self-fund their entire campaigns, whether they're running for a county executive seat or a governor's seat. A lot of people don't want to self-fund their campaigns if they know in the back of their mind they may even lose. But also, why should they have to? Why should they put, $5 million, $20 million, $50 million of their own dollars? That's what David Trone did. He put $50 million of his own money, and he lost in the primary to Angela Hasselbrooks. I know a state Senate race in Florida years ago, just a state Senate seat. One guy put in $5 million. One guy put in $1 million. Another one put in $1 million. One guy put in $300K. The guy who put in $5 million, he didn't win. The attorney general race in Florida, one guy put in $5 million of his own money. The woman who won, who's Ashley Moody, who's now my senator of Florida, she didn't put in $5 million of her own money. Majority of the money came from outside people. They came from organizations. It's not all about putting in $5 to $10 to $20 to $50 million of your own money to win a race. You shouldn't have to buy your seat. I agree, you do need to raise money. I agree that you do need to put in some of your own money, but you don't have to put in millions of dollars into a state Senate race, or millions of dollars into your own money into an attorney general race, or millions of dollars of your own money into a gubernatorial race. That's crazy. Even multimillionaire billionaires don't do that. But that's the mentality right now. A person's running for office, you have to do it all. You have to go out there and campaign. You need to talk to people. You need to talk to big donors. You have to go all over the place. I know people that have rented buses and they drive all over the state, all over the district. That's what you do. You get more money doing that, being out there, than just sitting back, putting in $5 million and just thinking that you have it in the bag. Or getting your minions to do your dirty work for you. It's not how you win. And as you know, I'm completely against the special interests and lobbyist groups that are up in DC pushing their agenda, flaunting money at these lawmakers and saying, I'll give you this money if you do what I say. A lot of them fall for it. Or these lobbies that constantly lobby for things that are so Democrat, they're so against the Constitution, things that the majority of the American people don't even want. But it's happening. I see it all the time. It's not the political consultants that are the problem. It's the lobbyists and special interests. There are political consultants out there that will just take your money and run. They don't care if you win or lose. I'm not one of them. They'll take hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars from you. They don't care. And I know a lot of political consultants that have more losers than winners in their pocket. You don't want that either. It's your reputation on the line. The corruption is so sick. A lot of my friends, they question why they're even in politics. They're like, I'm such a pure person with such fresh ideas. I have no drama. I'm a good person. I'm a good Samaritan. Why aren't people backing me? Why aren't I getting the funds? Why are people listening to the cronyism and the corruption and the rhinos and the never-Trumpers and the snowflakers? Again, President Trump doesn't want that. President Trump looks at all races. He looks at congressional races, senatorial races. He even looks at local races because they say politics is local. He looks at all of it. He looks at who is the heads of your state GOPs, who are the vice chairs of your state GOPs. He looks at all of it. He sees who is in there and who has the Americans' best interest at heart and who will push President Trump's agenda. Because again, that's what the majority of people voted for. You got 5 million votes for with the popular vote. Popular vote, you got 5 million votes. You won it by 5 million votes. Amazing. Amazing. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, you have to go with what your constituents want, what your constituents voted for. I know that the majority of the constituents, they don't believe in all of these illegals coming in and all these criminals being here. Remember, 87% of this country supports President Trump on illegal immigration. The majority of this country do not believe in fentanyl pouring into this country. They don't believe in the sex trafficking, the human trafficking, the drug trafficking, which is $1 billion business in this country. Majority of the American people, they don't believe in the rise of anti-Semitism going on college campuses and universities. The majority of the American people do not support CRT and gender identity in schools. They believe in reading, writing, and arithmetic. Majority of the American people, they don't believe that men should be in women's sports. They don't believe in having trans in the military. or having taxpayer dollars pay for these trans surgeries in the military. Majority of the American people, they did not believe in the mandation of the vaccines, of the COVID-19 vaccine. They don't believe in mandating all these vaccines for their children. Majority of the American people, they support that RFK Jr., HHS Secretary, wants to take out the synthetic dyes and colors out of our food. I can tell you, I've lost a lot of weight by not eating all those synthetic dyes and colors and processed food. My hair has grown a lot better because I don't use synthetic colors or dyes in my shampoos and conditioners anymore, or hair care. I use stuff that's all natural, sulfate-free, paraben-free, phthalate-free, vegan-friendly, gluten-free, and animal cruelty-free, made in the USA. And my hair has grown significantly. I had significant split ends and damage and breakage. Same thing with my makeup. My makeup is all natural. I don't really put a lot of acids on my face, a lot of animal fat in my face. Majority of my makeup comes from all natural products and all natural product lines. And I can tell you, I have less breakouts from it. I have less scarring and hyperpigmentation and discoloration because of it. Makes a big difference when everything is clean. So the majority of the American people are supporting President Trump, his agenda, the heads of his cabinet, what they're pushing forward. Mr. Congressman Shiru Thanader, who came to this country. He was from India. He came here. Supposedly he came here legally. We'll find that out. He's a United States congressman. He's a lawmaker. That's something that a lot of people dream of being. He has the privilege of being a lawmaker. He has the privilege of supposedly defending, taking care of his constituents in his district, which he's not doing. For him to do what he's doing, to throw articles of impeachment while President Trump is in the Middle East making good deals, is disgusting, asinine, crazy, idiotic, dumb. And again, putting this all together, it's not what the majority of the American people want. The majority of the American people did not vote for impeachment hoax number 4. I know that these articles of impeachment aren't going anywhere. Not anytime soon. Everybody's catching on to the Democrats' BS game. Everybody's catching on to these stupid congressmen that are combating Doge. Everybody's catching on to these stupid congressmen and senators that go to El Salvador to try to bring back an MS-13 illegal criminal. And then they do nothing when they have people from South Africa that came here legally. They were fighting for their lives. Because they're white. The Democrat congressman didn't want to welcome them in. They made it about race. These are people coming in legally. Where's Congressman Jamie Raskin to greet them, or Johnny Oshefsky, or Chris Van Hollen, or Fizzle Gray? Where are they? You show up and stand for an illegal criminal, MS-13 gang member from El Salvador. But you can't stand and welcome South Africans that came here legally. They came here through the correct portals of entry, like Thomas Homan's talked about. And Border Czar Thomas Homan loves his job. He's going to continue to do his job. I love him for it. He's a great man. Kristi Noem, she's going to continue to do her job too as DHS secretary. The fact that 3 Democrat congressmen from New Jersey were combating ICE and pushing ICE agents and Border Patrol, and putting ICE agents and Border Patrol in danger. And they have crazy people holding up signs, "We love you, illegals," and kissing the windows with a bunch of with buses of illegal criminals, the worst of the worst. This detention center in New Jersey is like the worst of the worst. But you have people cheering them on. Crazy people with a stand down. combating Border Patrol and ICE. Border Patrol and ICE are trying to protect us. They're trying to protect us from evil, from the likes of evil. What happened if it's your daughter that was raped and killed, or your son that was raped or killed, or your nephew, or your mother or grandmother? Would you combat ICE then? The horrors that these MS-13 gang members did to these young girls is horrific. For their parents to read the autopsy about how their daughters were murdered. You don't want to lose a child, especially not to a gang member, an MS-13 gang criminal. To read what these men did to these women, to Rachel Moore, to Jocelyn, to Lincoln Riley, to Kate Steinle. And for you to go to El Salvador, to bring an illegal criminal back, or for you to go in front of an ICE detention center in New Jersey and combat the people that are trying to protect us. It's disgusting. And you all should go to jail. I think the mayor of New Jersey was arrested. He wants to run for governor. I really hope that people don't vote for him. He knew what he was doing. They all knew what they were doing when they went over there. They were not there to help. They actually didn't care about the illegal criminals at that moment. They just wanted their photo ops, their 5 minutes of fame. And that's what Congressman Sharu Thaneter did yesterday. He wanted his 5 to 10 minutes to 15 minutes of fame. He was the guinea pig. They picked on him to write these articles of impeachment, but I think he enjoyed doing it. And he says he's going to keep fighting and keep writing them. Crazy. Crazy and stupid. Again, he is an idiot. He's to be removed from Congress. And again, the majority of the American people do not support this action. And I hope to God that the majority of the American people do not stand by Mr. Sharu, that they see through his charade, that they see through his BS, that they see through his wig, that he's fake and a phony and a fraud. Enough is enough with these frauds in Congress. Get them out, remove them, arrest them, do whatever you have to do. Taking them away from their committees does nothing. They need to be out of office forever. And that's the message. Coming up after the break, we're going to still talk about how crazy the Democrat Party is and also about Black fatigue. And that is our next segment coming up right after the break.
This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. You are all in with Alexandra Levine. We are still waiting for someone from the White House to come out and tell us what transpired between President Trump and Vladimir Putin on that call today. We are here live at the White House. We're waiting for White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to come out and tell us about the updates of today, the call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, what transpired in that call.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
Hello, everyone. Hello. We're back. This is Alexandra Levine Live with the America's Pulse Network. Our last segment tonight, who is left in the Democrat Party and what are their values? As I talked about in the last segment, Congressman Sharu Thaneter, he was born in India, came to this country. Now he's a congressman. His values is impeaching President Trump. But for what? Again, another impeachment hoax. Now people are starting to come out of the woodwork, these Democrats, these wealthy Democrats that were mayors, Democrats that were governors and congressmen, even Democrat that ran for president against President Trump, Kamala Harris. They're thinking about having her run again. They're saying she's popular. But now all of a sudden you have Raul Emanuel, he was the former mayor of Chicago. We'll put up that slide. Rahm Emanuel considers running for president in 2028 in the Democratic primary. Rahm Emanuel in 2028, he says, quote, I am training. Training for what? What is this moron training for? I know all about Rahm Emanuel and his older brother, Ezekiel Emanuel, who was actually a part of Obamacare. He was the one that was like rah for Obamacare, pushing the COVID-19 vaccines. Look at what Chicago is today. Look what it was then under Rahm Emanuel. He was like the worst mayor ever. And then they brought Mayor Blackfoot over there and she made it even worse. Oh my God, it's so disgusting over in Chicago. Thank God to Attorney General Pam Bondi for suing the state of Illinois, for charging the mayor, for charging people, the heads of government in the state of Illinois, and especially in Chicago. Chicago is a mess. Rahm Emanuel made that city a mess. He didn't fix it. He made it worse. And his other brother, Ari Emanuel, is a part of the music industry and the arts and entertainment industry. He owns WME, which is a huge talent agency out in California. We know all about California and Hollywood and the casting couches and what went on over there. I mean, this guy, Rahm Emanuel, all of a sudden he wakes up and says, I'm going to run for the presidency. I'm going to run in the Democrat primary. Craziness. We don't need the Rahm Emanuels of the world. The men that have destroyed cities. I mean, Chicago is a sanctuary city. It's disgusting. Last time I was there was many, many years ago. I only went in the summer. And I had the pleasure of actually going and seeing one of Trump's hotels there. I stayed at his hotel. I ate dinner at that hotel. It's a beautiful hotel. But, I mean, Rahm Emanuel? I mean, is this the best the Democrats can do? I mean, a mayor who goes on CNN and just constantly bashes President Trump and bashes the Republican Party really has no message. I mean, really doesn't. And just kissing the ass of socialists and communists and Marxists. And I say Rahm Emanuel because he is Jewish, and I'm Jewish, I can say this. Hashtag not my Jew. Hashtag never a Jew. Hashtag not a real Jew. Hashtag not a true Jew. I mean, the man hasn't really done anything to combat the anti-Semitism over in his state and in his city. The man has done nothing to bring peace to the Middle East. The man has done nothing in terms of adding proper education, like, I don't know, full Holocaust and full Israel education in his city and in his state, which is something that that's my life's work. I work on that every day of my life. He knows that there's rise of anti-Semitism in his city and in his state, but he's done nothing. Silent. And his older brother, Ezekiel Emanuel, is all about big pharma, again, pushing the COVID-19 vaccines and pushing Obamacare. And I know that these guys support illegals. I'm sure that his older brother, Ezekiel Emanuel, supports healthcare for illegals, which is illegal. And I'm sure that they support all these illegals that have come over to our country. I mean, they're, again, high crime in the city of Chicago, high crime in the state of Illinois. What did Rahm Emanuel do as mayor to combat that? What did he do when there was MS-13 gang members in his city? What did he do when there was illegal criminals in his city? Did he put them in jail? Did he get rid of them? Did he send them back to El Salvador? Did he send them back to the respective countries? No, he let them sit there, gave them slaps on the wrist, allowed the attorney generals in Chicago, and Chicago and the state of Illinois. He allowed them to stay there and cause havoc for the state and for the city. A lot of people have left the city of Chicago because it's so damn dangerous. When I was on my way to college, there is a great music conservatory in downtown Chicago. My father said there is no way in hell that you're going there. I was accepted there for my undergrad. A lot of my friends ended up going there. It's actually a very good music conservatory in Chicago. And my father said, hell no. He's like, I'm not allowing my young, beautiful daughter to live in that city, to go to that school. I don't want you to get raped. I don't want you to get killed. I don't want you to get burglarized, robbed, whatever. That was under Rahm Emanuel. So this guy is a fraud, another moron, another idiot, trying to make a name for himself again, trying to get his name out in lights. It's all BS, guys. It's all BS. If he couldn't make his own city good, if he couldn't fix the problems in his own city and in his own state, then how the hell do we know that he's going to fix this country for the better? And they're pushing Kamala Harris again. For what reason? She lost. She lost in a landslide. She's a loser. She wasn't even voted into the Democrat primary. She was just she slid in. She didn't get one vote. She was a terrible candidate. Remember, she was the Manchurian vice president. Not even the real president, right? Or not even the real vice president. We're finding that out. Manchurian candidate, her and Joe Biden. She was supposed to be the border czar. Never went to the real border. Crazy. She allowed all of these illegal criminals into our country, all these illegal terrorists into our country. How is this okay? Why is the Democrat Party allowing this moron, who, if God forbid she was president, would have destroyed our country forever? Why are they pushing her again to run for president? Do they want to see her get demolished? And her husband, who's, again, hashtag not my Jew, hashtag not a real Jew, hashtag not a true Jew, with his crazy daughter, Ella Emhoff, who's hashtag not a real Jew, hashtag not a true Jew. I mean, she funded UNRWA. She's giving money to UNRWA, who's in charge of October 7th. That guy's done nothing to combat anti-Semitism. And I thank President Trump for removing him from the Holocaust Memorial Council. He got rid of all the morons in there, all the hashtag not real Jews, hashtag not true Jews, and he put real Jews in there, like my friend Siggy Flicker and Sid Rosenberg and many others, and Alex Witkoff. Those are real Jews. He's got great Jewish people in his cabinet, like Stephen Miller and Lee Zeldin, real Jews that actually care about combating anti-Semitism. He created an anti-hate task force to combat the anti-Semitism that's happening in college campuses and universities with my friend Leo Terrell. Love that guy. Leo 2.0. I mean, these are real people. You don't put Rahm Emanuel as a Democrat nominee for president. You don't put Kamala Harris back in there. What have these people accomplished? Oh, because they have a name. Oh, because they have money. Oh, yes. Let's put them back in. Let's give them another shot. I think we're all drained from Kamala Harris and her hyena laugh. I think we're all drained from these crazy Democrats that like to hurt us, to hurt we the people, to hurt the middle class. They keep lying and saying that Trump is helping his billionaire friends and hurting the middle class. No, you hurt the middle class, and you know you hurt the middle class. And you're the ones who want everybody to stay on Medicaid forever and live under the government system. And you're the ones that want to put Section 8 housing everywhere and not deviate, what's the word? I said it earlier. To devalue, there we go, devalue and depreciate these homes, these neighborhoods that are worth $500,000 to millions of dollars. You guys are the ones that want to tell us that America's poor. You want to make us poor. That's not what we voted for. Remember what President Trump said? We will make America rich again. We will make America safe again. We will make America great again. We will keep America great. We'll make America wealthy again. We'll make America respected again. So why would we want to go back to Kamala Harris? Why would we want to go back to Rahm Emanuel? Why would we want to go back to these morons, these idiots that have done everything to hurt our country? Do you think Kamala Harris would have gotten the same ovation if she was president of the United States today, like what President Trump got in the Middle East? You think the king and the prince of Saudi Arabia and UAE and Qatar would have come down and welcomed President Trump on the tarmac or in the airport for Kamala Harris? No. And Joe Biden didn't get that same greeting either, because the Saudi people knew he was a fraud. They knew he had dementia. They knew that he wasn't really the one pulling the strings. Why didn't Joe Biden go to Qatar, huh? Why did Barack Obama go to Qatar? Remember, President Trump is the first sitting president to ever go to Qatar. Because remember, we the people, we voted for a businessman. We voted for a change agent. We voted for someone who hadn't been in politics his whole life. Even though he knew a lot of politicians, he donated to a lot of politicians. His daughter Ivanka was friends with a lot of politicians and politicians' daughters. Jared Kushner's done a lot of business deals with a lot of these princes and kings over the years. We the people want a negotiator. We want someone that makes America strong. And there's videos out right now showing the difference between President Trump going up the flight of steps and Joe Biden, as you know, he would trip going up flights of stairs. Embarrassing. That was so embarrassing for our country. You have a president who's walking up the steps, tripping. Not just once, he's tripped 2 or 3 times. Or he falls off one of the steps as he's finishing a speech, or he finishes a speech and he's like putting his hand out, hugging air. Or he's got the Easter bunny escorting him to places because he doesn't know where he's at. That's what we had for 4 years with Joe Biden. The Middle East, Europe, and America sees that we have a very strong president. President Trump was strong when he was there in 2017. He is stronger now. Every day he gets stronger. Every day he gets more powerful. And the Middle East and Europe, they see the power. Even the heads of Qatar said, this man is power. They don't see weakness. They know he's not a weak man. So for the Democrat Party to push these weak politicians, and I know they want to push Governor Wes Moore to run for president too. Governor Wes Moore has already hinted he wants to run because he's got George Soros and Oprah Winfrey backing him. He's got that type of money and those type of people backing him. Why would we want Governor Wes Moore to be our president when he's bankrupting his own state? He's a terrible governor. You think about signing a bill, a reparations bill? You wanted to change the name of the Francis Scott Key Bridge and ruin the history. He had the audacity to sign a bill to put Section 8 at Fort Howard, a historic landmark, instead of helping the veterans. Wes Moore is supposedly a veteran. Why don't you help your own? And then Wes Moore allows a senator from his state to go on your dime to get back this illegal criminal, this MS-13 gang member. Governor Wes Moore knew that this illegal criminal was in his state. He did nothing to get rid of him. Governor Wes Moore continues to allow illegal terrorists in his state, like in Montgomery County. He pushes back on ICE and DHS. He's got an attorney general that is suing the Trump administration for what? Trump administration's doing their job. You have a governor that is combating Doge because Governor Wes Moore is afraid that he's going to find the waste, fraud, and abuse that has been going on in Maryland for years. Governor Wes Moore does a lot of cover-ups. You try calling his office, you can't get through. You try to call the lieutenant governor's office, Arena Miller, you can't get through. They don't want to talk to you unless it's on, or not unless it's on their dime, but unless it fits their narrative. They don't care about you. Governor Wes Moore doesn't care about you. Kamala Harris doesn't care about you. Rahm Emanuel doesn't care about you. Gavin Newsom, he definitely doesn't care about you. Again, you damn Democrats in power, you elected officials. Kamala Harris didn't win. Get over it and start working with President Trump, start working across the aisle. But again, start working for your constituents. Start listening to them. Start caring about them. Start taking care of them. That's what it's all about. You have to do your job. We, the people, are not going to reward you so easily this time. Like our guest said, Americans are looking for a new direction, a better direction. That's why a lot of Democrats voted for President Trump in 2024. A lot of independents did too. He had a surge in the Black community, a surge in the Jewish community, a surge in the Hispanic community. There's a reason for it. Because the people of hashtag had enough. So again, we need to listen. Don't put Kamala Harris in. Don't put Rahm Emanuel in. Don't put Gavin Newsom in. I'm sure you can do better. But the way things are going, I don't think there's going to be a Democrat in the White House anytime soon. I love everything the president's doing. The policies are working for we Americans. Again, weed out the noise, stop reading into the propaganda, and really read and look at what the president is doing. Now, last night we had our first show of The Pulse. The Pulse is every Wednesday night now from 8 to 9 p.m. We had a very interesting segment about Black fatigue with a very renowned political guy named Rob Smith, who's actually a gay Black Republican. He talks about the difference between, certain types of Black people, African Americans in the country. And he goes into it in this clip that we have put together. We're gonna play it for
that
you.
everyone is tired of. Number one, everybody is tired of loud, ghetto, and ratchet, and violent, and mean, and angry all the time.
Zero class. They have zero emotional control. They don't know they don't even know how to have the slightest conflict. I wanted that banana, but the lady there took it before I got to it. So I'm gonna throw a shopping cart at her. What's going on? I can't. I'm sorry. I'm done making excuses for people acting like that.
Did you have to say banana?
I wasn't going to say it. They weren't produce. I thought maybe it really was, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Now we're
I eat bananas like every day. I eat bananas all the time. That's why I wish I had said orange, but I didn't.
So I can tell you that video has gone viral all over TikTok, Facebook, and X. And again, we were talking about the Black fatigue. We were actually reemphasizing what Rob Smith was talking about. And one of the clips, it actually showed, two Black women, all of a sudden they're just fighting at a Walmart, at a grocery store. They're throwing things at each other. And that is honestly what's been happening all over the country. I actually was at an Ulta store and I saw, a bunch of people just like throwing perfume at each other, throwing things at each other, throwing lipsticks at each other, stealing perfume out of nowhere. I mean, it's coming out of nowhere. And I agree with Elena is that they're not having conversations. They're just starting fights, just like we see in school. We see in school that a lot of these kids are getting bullied. They're getting hit. They're getting thrown. And out of nowhere, it's ridiculous and it's asinine. Whatever happened to talking to people instead of throwing the first punch or throwing the first piece of fruit at somebody? And that's basically what the video is talking about. And again, we were talking about Black fatigue. Rob Smith again brought up the difference between two types of Black people. And we have this clip that I saw on Twitter about exactly what Rob Smith was talking about. And we'll play this. And I will be honest, this video is a little vulgar. Viewer discretion is advised. Now that goes straight to my point about Rob Smith. I mean, these people are clearly under the influence. I don't know what type of party this was, but these people look like mothers. They look like fathers. They look like nieces and nephews, maybe even grandfathers. And this is the behavior that they're showing. And this is a public viral video that went out showing this behavior. And it shows, women, they're not wearing swimsuits, guys. They're wearing their underwear. They're wearing thongs. They're wearing G-strings. They're going up on a roof. And I'm not talking about race here. This has nothing to do with race. But me personally, I would never do that. You would never see me do that because A, I'm a public figure, but B, as an aunt, as someone who wants to be a mother one day, I would never do that. I would never do that. And again, it's that behavior that's coming out from the left. It's that type of behavior coming out from the left. And that's why we need to have smart people. We need to make smart decisions. We need to, realize what's being seen out there and what's going on. And if a child sees their mother doing that, they may want to do that too. It's about what goes on in the home. It's about the influences. If a child sees their mother punching another woman or pulling down another woman's pants at a grocery store, the child's going to want to do that too and think it's okay. The child, if they see their mother stealing, they're going to want to steal too. They're going to think that's okay because they saw their mother doing it. You have to understand, it's about the behavior. This is now a behavioral thing. The behavior needs to be more, I would say people need to have a lot more decorum. People can't just put themselves out there like that. I mean, like I said, these people are not wearing swimsuits. They're in a viral video, pulling down their pants, they're grinding each other, they're bumping and grinding each other. They're up on roofs, they're showing their thongs and their G-strings. And we have to have decorum back into this country. We have to have proper behavior back into this country. Again, those people are mothers, those people are grandmothers, those people are grandfathers, nieces and nephews. Again, it's all about what Rob Smith was talking about, how there's two types of Black people, about Black fatigue. And that's what's been going on. That's kind of a fad that's been going on for the last, 5 to 7 to 10 years now. But I say it, to not just, African Americans, I say it to white people too. We have to have decorum. We have to have decorum. We have to have proper behavior. We have to know where we are. We have to know our place. But also we need to be able to talk to people, because when you don't talk to people, you have stuff like that happens where people are under the influence and doing drugs on an open public video where everyone can see, or they're causing fights at a grocery store or fights at an Ulta store and so forth. So, again, that video that went out that we did on the Pulse, it's a great show. It's every Wednesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. It was a great panel. That same panel is coming back next week. Again, every Wednesday night, 8 to 9 p.m. Please stay with us. We also have some great shows on this network. We have the Jersey Shore Mondays from 8 to 10. We're also with the Jersey Shore on Fridays as well, I think from 8 to 9 and possibly 9 to 10. I know that Damon Galdo has changed some of his hours a little bit, but he's also going to be featuring some of his radio show that he does. So that's going to be awesome. And then we're bringing back the Conservative Corner. Conservative Corner with Seth Eisenberg is coming back on Sundays from 7 to 8 p.m. He's awesome. We love him. He tells it like it is. He tells it like it is. And speaking of Seth Eisenberg, we have his GoFundMe. We're going to bring that up right now. There we go. Unfortunately, Seth, he was out of work for about 3 months. He was in the hospital for 33 days. He had 5 surgeries on his foot. He almost lost his foot. And we appreciate any donation to Seth Eisenberg to help him, to get him back up. He just went back to work, but basically his boss was like, if you can't get back to work, just don't come back to work at all. So Seth has been fighting, to pay his bills. He's been fighting to recover, and we need to help him as much as possible. Not help illegals, not help criminals, but help Seth Eisenberg, who is a veteran. He served our Navy. So please go to GoFundMe, Jonah/Eisenberg/overcome/health/crisis, and donate today. Average donations between $100 to $150. The goal is $25K. He's close to 6,000. He raised that in a very short period of time, but we need to keep going because unfortunately GoFundMe is not boosting up his posts. So we, the people, we need to donate more money to him so we can boost him up and help him recover. And also we have my friend Allison Reedy. Allison Reedy is continuously fighting for her son Dylan. Her son Dylan was wrongfully accused of being a domestic terrorist. He was found not guilty, but all he wants to do is go to college and succeed and live the American dream. He only wants to go to one college in Utah. His name is Dylan, and she created a Facebook group page called My Son on the Altar. I advise everybody to go, but please go to his GoFundMe, GoFundMe.com, Dylan College Fun After Adversity. That's Dylan College Fun After Adversity. Her son, he's a great son. He's a wonderful son. He's very smart. All he wants to do is go to college. And again, he was wrongfully accused, and we need to get back to him. And, Congressman Shiru, he's your constituent. Want to help him out? Maybe instead of writing articles of impeachment, maybe help out your constituent. That would be nice. How about Allison Reedy? She's also your constituent. So everybody, please go to her Facebook page, My Son on the Altar. We've had her on the show many times. She's a wonderful woman, wonderful mother, and a fighter for her child. And again, don't forget to follow us, Alexandra Levine Live. Don't forget to follow at America's Pulse Network. Follow the network entirely so you can see all of our shows at America's Pulse Network on Rumble, at America's Pulse Network on Truth Social, at America's Pulse Network on X, and at America's Pulse Network on YouTube. And also don't forget to follow me, Alexandra Levine, on Facebook, at X, at Alexandra Levi 20, also at Levine Consulting on YouTube, at Air Levine 85 on Instagram, at Air Levine 85 on Rumble, and at Air Levine 85 on Truth Social. Again, everyone, this has been a great 2 hours jam-packed. We'll be back next week. Again, I'm your White House correspondent for the America's Pulse Network, and the reason you listen and the reason you watch is you are no idiot.
The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.